Hello everyone, 1st of July 2025, 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and this is a news summary from Moscow on my both channels on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you all for joining the stream. Many thanks to all the members of our community who will either join later on or will watch video of the stream during the day. A lot of news, dear friends, on some major development that I want to share in this program. And after news segment, let's have a short community chat, 15-20 minutes. And yes, I hope you will find this update informative and useful. I will just remind you that if you want to support my work, if you want to support my media project, you can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or the Boosty platforms. And when it comes to Boosty, dear friends, there was a message on the platform a few days ago. They are changing their bank partner. And if you were supporting from Boosty or plan to support through Boosty, platform might ask you to renew your information that you already had used on the platform. Hopefully, Boosty will start work better with this change, with this new financial partner that they have. Also, when it comes to support, you can obviously during the live streams, by the way, donate on Rumble, through Rumble platform. You can use Super Chat for that purpose and become also premium subscriber. And you can subscribe to my Patreon page where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. And soon a new program is coming, by the way, when I will be the guest in a program. So I have some plans about that. Let's see how it will work out. Initially, pioneer programs will be published exclusively on Boosty and my page on Patreon. And afterwards, maybe on YouTube and Rumble also. Let's see how it will work out. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. All the links, all the addresses and this within the description box and in the pinned comment. And I guess we can start now. I have not seen comment from Banzo Beans, but probably he's here on Rumble, our moderator there. And anyways, many thanks to Banzo for helping me with the moderation. And let's start, dear friends. As I said, a lot of news to unpack. And I will start with this report that yesterday evening, EU regime, with assistance of NATO, and to be more precise, with assistance of UK, launched Storm Shadow cruise missiles to strike central parts of Donetsk city. And as a result of this strike on civilian residential area, by the way, at least one person was killed there, several people were wounded there. One of the missiles actually struck a residential apartment. I will show you now aftermath of that strike. Yet another terrorist act committed by Kiev regime and UK that is leading charge now in this proxy war, seems like, against Russia. And therefore, terrorism is becoming a main weapon or weapon of choice for this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and their British partners. Not surprisingly, UK, British secret services, British militaries are famous or infamous, one may say, for their crimes against humanity all over the world, right? There is a history on that. And let me show you now videos of Let me show. I mean, let's see from the beginning. By the way, you can see it's a civilian residential area. By the way, you can see residential apartment being hit and in flames. There is another video on that attack. You know, that's what UK is, by the way. That's what United Kingdom is, and their proxies in Kiev, terrorists, right? Elites, I'm talking about, so-called. As I said, at least one person was killed there as a result of this attack, and several people were wounded. Also, according to reports, Kiev regime, with assistance of UK and other NATO member states, struck Lugansk too, and casualties were reported there also. And well, this is not all. Overnight, Kiev regime launched about more than 60 drones to strike deep inside the Russian territory. Overnight, early hours of this morning, obviously, yet again, with assistance of UK and number of other NATO member states that are providing Kiev regime not just with the drones themselves, but also targeting data. And this morning, for example, reports start coming in about drones that struck industrial area in Izhevsk city. And well, we have this report on that matter. There are casualties in a drone attack on their enterprise in Izhevsk. Firefighters are putting out the fire. The head of Udmurtia, Alexander Brichalov, said on the Telegram channels, all forces and their means are working at the site. Their employees of their enterprise have been evacuated. They are victims. The victims are receiving the necessary medical assistance. Firefighters are eliminating the sources of fire, and I can show you a video on that strike. Also, dear friends. So this is a type of drone. And this is another footage of a fire from their enterprise itself. Industrial area was hit, and also you can see residential apartments nearby. So local authorities will do whatever is necessary to make sure that people, civilians, are safe, of course. But yet again, this is the face, by the way, of NATO. This is the face of UK. I think it is no longer point to say that Kiev regime struck Russia. It's NATO. It's NATO that conducts on daily basis these attacks on Russia. And I wonder what has had to happen for a Russian president to say enough is enough, and when Russia will truly begin retaliating on Russian enemies. That is US, UK, Germany, France, and there are other NATO member states. Because retaliatory strikes on NATO proxy Kiev regime is clearly not enough, isn't it? It's just clearly not enough. How many more Russian citizens have to be killed by US and UK and Germans and French to retaliate? Finally. I don't know, man. I'm just sick and tired of seeing this type of news on daily basis when these NATO countries are killing our civilians left and right, and we still are exercising, restraint. I mean, for how long? And this is just crazy, man. And when it comes to British terrorism, by the way, this is not all. These attacks on Russian soil is not enough for a British terrorist aristocracy, royal family, and so-called elites. They are conducting terrorist attacks on Russian tankers also. British secret services and militaries are engaged not for a week or two, but for many, many months now in terrorist attacks on vessels that are somewhat related with Russia, either directly or indirectly. And for example, we have this report that oil tanker explodes off Libya coast after calling at the after sealing at the Russian port. This was reported by Bloomberg, Western propaganda outlet, right? No one can say that Bloomberg is pro-Russian. An oil tanker carrying around 1 million barrels of crude has exploded off the coast of Libya. No injuries or pollution have been reported, and the cause of the blast remains unclear. Well, I mean, everything is very clear, by the way. UK, British intelligence, with active use of their proxy Ukrainians, are targeting vessels, by the way, that are directly or indirectly linked to Russia. It's very clear. There is nothing to guess about here, right? The Marshall Islands flagged tanker Villamoura had departed Libya's Zuetina port and was en route to Gibraltar when the explosion occurred on June 27, followed by flooding the engine room that left the vessel adrift. Spokesperson for the operator TMC Tankers told their media on Monday, "It is the latest in a string of unexplained blasts involving oil tankers that had recently visited Russian ports." Bloomberg noted, according to vessel tracking data, this vessel, Villa Moura, sailed at the Russia's Ust-Luga oil terminal in early April, and the Caspian Pipeline Consortium facility near Novorossiysk in May, both of which primarily handle Kazakh origin oil. So you see, dear friends, this is not the first time when UK and their proxy Ukrainians are attacking vessels that are connected either directly or indirectly are linked to Russia. And this is definitely not the first time when very same British terrorist aristocracy, royal family, bloodthirsty royal family of UK and their so-called elites are targeting this consortium, by the way, Caspian Pipeline Consortium, in which mainly serves, by the way, as a mean to transport Kazakhstani oil, not even Russian oil, but Kazakhstani oil, right? And one may ask, why would the UK, and by the way, one of the biggest shareholders in this company are American companies, right? In this Caspian Pipeline Consortium. And one might ask, well, why would British elites, British Secret Services attack US interests? Well, they will, and they already are attacking interests of the US businesses because they are competing. We all remember, by the way, that some time ago there was reports that a number of influential business groups in US were considering to invest in Nord Stream pipeline, to invest in South Stream pipeline or Turk Stream pipeline, as it also known. And these groups also share their intention to buy Ukraine's pipeline network. And their intention is, according to reports in the media, including Western media, to buy Russian gas on the border and then to transport this gas to Europe, gas and oil, by the way, through their pipeline network, if they will be able to invest in these projects, right? And become either full owners or partial owners, right? And London don't want this to happen. And you know why? Because British royal family, British aristocracy is a driving force behind the globalism, right? And globalists, by the way, want complete control over this world. And they see America first people as their enemies, as their obstacle. And that's why time and again London is targeting US interests or their fields where US interests are presented. And they are not shying away from terrorism, by the way. Never did. Yet again, these are blood-sucking, despicable scum of humanity. British aristocracy, British royal family, by the way. That's what they are. Nothing to be said about so-called elites, political class of UK that are servants of this scum, right? So that's the face of modern UK, by the way. Terrorists, bloodthirsty terrorists, man. And no one should be surprised, by the way, either in the Baltic Sea, citizens of the Baltic, of the countries that are, in the Baltic region, no one should be surprised from Europeans, let's say, that are living also in Mediterranean coast, and even British citizens, by the way, ordinary British citizens that have nothing to do with their terrorist anti-human activity of their royal family there and their aristocracy. British ordinary citizens also should not be surprised if one day they wake up and they see tankers freaking exploding on their shores, and the entire shore is dark because of their oil spill. That might happen in the Baltics. That might happen on the shores of a United Kingdom, and that might happen in the Mediterranean on the shores of France, Italy, Spain, right? That's the direction that this terrorist British royal family and British aristocracy is pushing this world, and the Europeans included. And I think at this point it's only a matter of time, and there are some massive environmental disaster or disasters, by the way, going to happen in all directions that I mentioned, in a so-called English Channel or La Manche, also in the Baltics, potentially in the North Sea too, and in Mediterranean. It's just a matter of time, because globalists, by the way, have no reverse gear. Globalists have no brakes, and they will push, right, this world towards total disaster as long as they exist. So therefore, just mark my word, by the way, and remember, when ecological disasters happened, remember that, well, Levon was warning about it, right? Because it's going to happen, by the way. It's only a matter of time. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Russian militaries has completely liberated their territory of LPR, Lugansk People's Republic. Earlier, I was reporting that, 99.5% of territories was liberated, and now we have this report that Russian troops have taken control of the entire territory of LPR. The head of the republic, Leonid Pisechnik, said on Channel 1 during their interview on Channel 1. And let me show you this area, by the way. No one should be surprised if some DRGs of Kiev regime still are operating in some forestry areas of the LPR, but no settlement in Lugansk People's Republic is controlled by Kiev regime's forces and NATO mercenaries at this point. And this is LPR, by the way, all this part. And the only areas that I can tell where Kiev regime's DRGs might still operate and NATO mercenaries is this forestry, Serebrenka forestry, which is, it's a massive forest, as you can see on the map, dear friends. And obviously for DRGs, it's relatively easy to hide somewhere here, right? But no settlement, by the way, no settlement in LPR is controlled by Kyiv regime's forces for this moment. So congratulations to residents of LPR, to Russia, all the supporters of Russia. Battle for Lugansk People's Republic has ended with a decisive Russian victory, as it was expected, obviously. Also, if you are interested about casualty numbers that Kyiv regime's forces are suffering on a daily basis, yesterday Russian media reported, based on Defense Ministry, on this exact topic. And well, during the previous 24 hours, Kyiv regime, for example, lost more than 1,300 military personnel all along the front line. And this is, by the way, relatively low number. I remember times when on daily basis, Kyiv regime was losing 2,000, 2,500 military personnel all along the front line. But now, some may argue that operations on the line of contact are not as active as it was some time ago. And therefore, there is decrease in the casualty levels for on part of Kyiv regime's forces, but still, by the way, daily losses over 1,000 is quite a lot, isn't it? Quite a lot. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that, well, Russia is going to study OPCW's report on alleged detection of toxic substances in Ukraine. And by the way, OPCW is like IAEA, like International Atomic Energy Agency, just in the field of weapons of mass destruction, right? In the field of chemical weapons. And both institutions that formally are international, I mean, both institutions are absolutely discredited, isn't it? And unsurprisingly, this discredited or Western-controlled organization come up with some statements that they find traces of some chemical weapons in Ukraine, and they are basically indirectly but blaming Russia. So we all know how this movie goes, isn't it? We have seen this movie many times, by the way. In Syria, for example, when OPCW experts, by the way, that were then fired, debunked statements of leadership of OPCW about Assad's regime using chemical weapons. But yet again, these experts who debunked the information was fired, not the leadership of OPCW, not the corrupt leadership of OPCW that are working for Israeli Mossad and British MI6 and US CIA, right? And they're gonna come up with some somewhat similar scenario. Also, in near future, I guess that's why this asset of CIA, asset of Western ruling class, was activated, OPCW. But and let's go through this news. Russian experts will study the June 26 report of the organization for their prohibition of chemical weapons, OPCW, on the alleged discovery of their poisonous substances in the combat zone in Ukraine. Russian permanent mission to the organization told TASS. And yet again, we all know how this movie gonna play out, right? Soon, OPCW will either directly or indirectly blame Russia for using weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, while everybody in this world knows if Russia wanted to use weapons of mass destruction and used it, then there would be no live thing in the so-called Ukraine, not even bacteria, by the way. Nothing. It will be sterilized completely for next thousands of years, right? We all understand this, isn't it? If Russia wanted to, Ukraine would be sterilized for thousands of years, even from freaking bacteria. But nevertheless, there are a lot of stupid people in this world, especially in the West, by the way, that are zombified by their creepy propaganda, right? And they're gonna buy whatever CNN or Fox News or BBC or that kind of crap gonna tell them, isn't it? So OPCW soon most likely will come up with their allegations against Russia. Then Western ruling class, globalists, and their assets in the governments of Western countries will use these allegations as justification for new wave of Russophobia, Russophobic hysteria, right? A new wave of additional sanctions and all the rest, right? At this point, I don't really even care, right? What West will say or do. Only question I have: what will it take for the Russian president to say enough is enough and let's retaliate on our enemies with full force? That's the only question I have, because it is clear, by the way, Western so-called elites, globalists, Western regimes are our mortal enemies, right? They are killing us. Literally, they are killing us, by the way, here in Russia. They are killing our citizens in thousands, right? Western countries, NATO countries, by the way, this is factual. Tens of thousands of Russian citizens died because of this proxy war that West is waging against us. So you cannot go any further than that to be a mortal enemy, right? So Western ruling class, Western regimes, NATO is our enemy. And the only question I have, what will it take for Russian president to say enough is enough? We exercise restraint long enough, it did not work, and let's put these motherfuckers to their places now. When Russian president will make decisions that are desperately needed, by the way, to put Western so-called elites into their places? That's the only question I have. And when it comes to chemical weapons, by the way, I mean, maybe veterans of our community remember, I was sharing videos, isn't it? Kiev regime's neo-Nazi formations were not even hiding that they were dropping bombs with the chemicals in it on the line of contact from the copters, from the drones. They were filming it, by the way, themselves and sharing on internet. And I have shown you several times these videos, right? And still, OPCW, by the way, says nothing about constant use of different type of chemical substances by Kiev regime on line of contact. And they are now helping Western ruling class to fabricate allegations against Russia. Yet again, I mean, should we be surprised? Obviously not. By the way, IAEA was used exactly in the same way against Iran, right? And OPCW was used there in the same manner against Syria. You know, they are just doing what they know best, Western ruling class and their intelligence services. You know, if they already used that scenario several times before and no one believes them, they don't care. They don't care what the rest of the world will think. All they want is to keep their own public in a deep sleep, zombified as much as possible, so that you know, they will not have to explain anything to anybody. That's all, right? They can allocate whatever funds they want for to enrich themselves, right? To enrich military-industrial complex, to enrich multinational corporations that are paying them, right? They will do whatever globalists want, demands from them, and no one in the West will ask questions, literally. I mean, very few, because vast majority of public in the West is completely zombified, by the way. They have no idea what the hell is going on in this world, right? They don't know even what is happening in their own countries, by the way. That's the level of zombification of the people in the West, you know. And on the topic of chemical weapons, by the way, the FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service, published a video of their discovery of yet another Ukrainian armed forces secret storage of chemical weapons for dropping from the drones. And this storage was found in Kurachovo direction in DPR, and videos are circulating on that one. experts went in and carefully took this stuff away. And yet again, I mean, why would we need videos from FSB when Ukrainian neo-Nazi formations were themselves filming drones and these bombs that were filled with their chemical weapons? They were openly acknowledging that they are using chemical weapons on the battlefield, by the way. And there are also, unfortunately, videos, and I have shared those videos on my Telegram channel, when there was, I remember there was an instance when these Ukrainian neo-Nazi formations dropped that chemical weapon on a small Russian unit of several military personnel while they were crossing some small river, and this canister exploded not far away from them on the bank, and as a result of these chemicals, one of their military personnel didn't survive. He suffered concussion, get poisoned, and drowned. He was unable to cross this small river, but it was toxins, right? So he was absolutely disoriented, and then he died. He was unable to cross the river. So there are plenty of evidences, by the way, of using of chemical weapons by this terrorist regime of Zelensky. And OPCW says nothing about that, ever. You know, why Russia is still member of OPCW, why Russia is still member of IAEA and other so-called international organizations that are clearly controlled by Western secret services. Why we are part of these criminal organizations at this point, really. These are not international organizations. Formally, they might be UN bodies, but in reality, they controlled by Washington, London, by Israeli secret services. So why we are part of it, man? I mean, so many questions that I have, man, so many questions. Will anybody ever give me answers on that? I don't know. Share your opinions, dear friends, what you think on all of that. TASS News Agency, meanwhile, is reporting that that Norway plans to deploy its F-35 fighter jets to Poland to protect Ukrainian aid hub, Ukrainian military aid hub. Okay, interesting news because one might assume that maybe NATO, in its preparations for further escalation with Russia, is realizing that at one point they might actually force Russian president to say enough is enough, let's take their action now against our mortal enemies. And in that case, obviously, logistical hubs in Poland, in Romania, in other NATO member states will be primarily targeted. Military bases, logistical hubs, or military industrial complex, major naval and air bases, obviously, and many other things, right? And I guess this deployment of Norwegian fighter jets to Poland is an attempt to somewhat better prepare to repel potential Russian strikes. It would not help. It would not help them, because if it's come to it, Russia will use weapons that no NATO country will be able to intercept ever. Not now, and not as long as NATO exists, by the way. Right? Russia already demonstrated some of those weapons, including Oreshnik, by the way. RT is meanwhile reporting that seems like not all NATO member states are happy about increase of military spendings up to 5% of GDP, and Spain is quite a vocal critic of this idea. So NATO member Spain has roundly rejected demands by US President Donald Trump and military bloc's chief Mark Rutte to increase its spending on militarization to 5% of the country's GDP, and understandably so, by the way. Spain cannot afford to do so. They just have no money to do so, right? And it's not just Spain, by the way. Spanish leadership, surprisingly somewhat, has enough guts, actually, to say it openly, right? to oppose this pressure from neocons and the globalists, combined pressure, right? But if you think other NATO member states are in a position to afford such a spending, you are mistaken. Just a couple of months ago, high-ranking officials in Germany, by the way, right, was saying openly that they are unable to double their military spendings, and that's what increase up to 5% of GDP will mean. So if Germany is unable to afford this leading economy in Europe, then what about other countries, right? So it's not just Spain. Germany will struggle to fulfill this promise that they're going to increase spending up to 5% of GDP. France gonna struggle with that. UK gonna struggle with that. UK is not a EU member, but NATO member, of course, and many other NATO states, by the way. But you know what? It's first of all, this is an issue for citizens of NATO member states, right? Because their country is gonna increase spending anyways. Maybe not up to 5%, but up to 3, 4, right? And that means that money will be pulled out from other sectors that are much more important for ordinary people, because they should know. Maybe they don't know because they've been zombified, but they should know that Russia is not a threat for them. And it's this imaginary Russian threat, isn't it, that NATO is using to justify this increase in spending and militarization. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And well, Netanyahu, genocidal maniac from Israel, as majority of Israelis are, by the way, so-called Prime Minister Netanyahu will visit Washington on Monday, next Monday. And we will see more such a footage, isn't it? When Trump will serve his boss very politely and gently, right? And to make him happy, to make boss of America happy, a decision is made to urgently allocate another $510 million US for Israeli assistance. So U.S. State Department has approved their $510 million emergency sale of munition to Israel. And this is not a sale, by the way. This is American taxpayers paying for American weapons that are transferred to Israel. Israel is paying shit for that, right? The package includes 3,845 JDAM kits for 2,000-pound BLU-109 bunker buster bombs and 3,280 JDAM kits for 500-pound MK82 general purpose bombs. And probably everyone will ask legitimately, I mean, what the hell is going on? Is it a second rounder is coming of the escalation between Israel and Iran, or generally in the Middle East, in terms of regional war being provoked? And the answer is yes. What I said straight away when this fragile peace was broke between Israel and Iran, between US and Iran, that this is just a pause that was desperately needed for Israel to rearm itself, right? Not just in terms of air-to-surface weaponry, but also in terms of air defense systems, right? Interceptor missiles. And the US, obviously, with non-stop regime, will supply Israel with whatever weapons Netanyahu will require from his slaves in US administration, no matter how much it's gonna cost to US taxpayers. And as I said many times before, by the way, regional war in the Middle East is only a matter of time. Zionists, Israeli genocidal regime, Zionists, neocons in US and globalists in general, or the Western ruling class, is on the same page when it comes to Middle East. They all want regional war, maybe for different reasons, but they want regional war, and that's the direction that they're going to continue to push. So better Iran get prepared, by the way. And while this is happening, we should not forget, dear friends, that Israel continues to commit genocide in Palestine. And this morning I saw reports that up to 100 civilians were killed during the previous 24 hours as a result of Israeli bombing. Main attention has been shifted towards Israeli-Iran, US-Iran confrontation, right? Recently, but we should not forget that Israel continues to commit genocide against Palestinian people, and on daily basis kills dozens and dozens and dozens of civilians, while destroying livelihoods of thousands and tens of thousands of people. Entire Gaza Strip is in ruins. You all have seen results of this genocidal campaign that Israel is conducting against civilians there, by the way. I don't take no argument that Israel is fighting Hamas. Israel is exterminating Palestinian people and forcing them to flee the region because they want to grab that territory. That's it. And once they will, if they be able to either kill them all in the Gaza Strip, kill all the Palestinians, or kill as much as they can and force the rest into Egypt or elsewhere in the region, they will do the same in the West Bank, which is already, by the way, I mean, from original territory of West Bank is almost nothing is left, right? Because these European settlers, by the way, took the land, took their entire villages of the Palestinians, forced them out from their homes, right? And took them. And more and more territories being grabbed from Palestinians in the West Bank too. So as I said, by the way, until this fascist fascist state Israel is demilitarized and denazified, no one should expect any humanity from this state towards anybody, especially towards Palestinians. It is what it is, right? Meanwhile, obviously, topic of Israeli-US war against Iran is still active. Recent strikes and most likely further escalation. And Foreign Minister of Iran was asked about future talks with the US on the nuclear program on topic of de-escalation. Trump made statements that Iranians are kind of begging him to have a talk and that kind of crap, right? I mean, when last time Trump said anything normal, really, or anything that can be trusted, right? And we have a short clip. We have short clip from interview that Abbas Araghchi, Foreign Minister of Iran, gave to media, and let's just listen to his statements.
Said that talks with your government could restart as early as this week. Will that happen?
I don't think negotiations will restart as quickly as that. In order for us to decide to re-engage, we will have to first ensure that America will not revert back to targeting us in a military attack during the negotiations. And I think with all these considerations, we still need more time.
Still, the door is not entirely closed to direct talks with the U.S.
The doors of diplomacy will never slam shut.
So Iran's foreign minister is very clear, isn't it? That they cannot trust Trump, and they are kind of they are not shutting down door for talks, because in diplomacy you don't use that kind of language, right? I can say anything I want, by the way. I'm a citizen journalist. I don't give a damn. But if I was somehow, if we imagine that I've been appointed in foreign ministry of the Russian Federation, in press service, let's say, obviously my language would change drastically, because then you are a public figure, and you have to use different language or act differently because you represent the country. Now I represent myself only, right? And therefore, obviously, and that is one of the reasons, by the way, why Russian officials are so diplomatic in statements. Vast majority of them. Maybe there are some exceptions. For example, Dmitry Medvedev loves to make some strong statements, right? Former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, but that's an exception, not the rule, right? Usually, Russian officials are extremely conservative in the language and diplomatic. And that's the rule of the politics and diplomacy, right? And Abbas Araghchi obviously cannot say that they're not going to negotiate with US or with anybody, because this is not the language he can use. But at the same time, he was very clear that they need some guarantees that US will not use these talks again as a deception to cut off guard Iran and to bomb Iran in middle of the talks. And how US can give such guarantees, by the way? US cannot do this, right? Because of the reputation of the US political class and current administration, including Trump himself, by the way. I remind you that Trump personally and his special envoy Witkov, they were personally engaged in a deception operation together with the genocidal regime of Netanyahu, while being engaged in talks on a nuclear program with Iran, when all that talks were just a deception to catch off guard Iran from incoming Israeli attack, right? And after that, I can understand how Araghchi will say that, we are not shutting down door for diplomacy, but we need some sort of guarantees that these talks are not used against us to fool us again, right? And I can understand this position, but yet again, what kind of guarantees US can give you? Can you trust anybody from US leadership? I mean, literally anybody. You cannot, right? It is what it is. That's why I'm saying, by the way, world is in a point when there is only one way forward, objectively speaking. And this one way forward is to isolate collective West, because the leadership of the collective West, Western ruling class, globalists, neocons, and all their puppets that they have in the governments of collective West countries, none of them can be trusted, ever, right? So best way forward for rest of the world is to isolate collective West. Leave door open for ordinary people to communicate with each other, right? Because ordinary people should never take each other as enemies, because we are ordinary people, right? But collective West leadership has to be isolated, and that requires collective West itself to be isolated. And my hope is that during the upcoming BRICS summit in Brazil, two major topics will be discussed. One is the creation of alternative and financial banking system that is truly necessary for this world, alternative to the weaponized Western one. And second topic that needs to be discussed, and talks have to start on that. We have to isolate collective West, man. We just have to isolate Western ruling class, right? Because we cannot negotiate with them. We cannot agree. We cannot achieve any agreement with them because they are constantly lying. They cannot be trusted ever, right? And it will take probably, decades until societies in the West will wake up and regain control over their countries and manage to establish new elites. It will take decades, and therefore, until Western societies will wake up, only way we have to protect ourselves from these extremely hostile elites of the West is to isolate them, right, from the rest of the world. And I'm 100% convinced, by the way, we are already moving in that direction. It's just factual. There is certain indicators of that. And I'm 100% convinced that this is a truly only way forward for humanity at this point. Because Western ruling class is existential threat for human civilization. It is what it is, man. Right? And how Trump gonna respond to this statement of Abbas Araghchi? How Marco Rubio, head of State Department, gonna respond to the statement of Abbas Araghchi that they want to be engaged in diplomacy, but true diplomacy, not the one that US will use as deception. What Rubio gonna say about it? Or Trump, or anybody in US leadership? And what kind of guarantees they can give, by the way, when not a single word from them can be trusted? You know, I'm telling you, Western elites are destroying themselves and destroying Western world, by the way, simultaneously. To continue, well, I think this news is also interesting that CSTO foreign ministers condemn Israeli and US attacks on Iran. The foreign ministers of their Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, which is built, by the way, by several former Soviet republics, Belarus, Russia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Armenia, I believe. So foreign ministers of the CSTO, with the exception of Armenia, because Armenian foreign minister was not presented in recent summit, I believe, strongly condemned the Israeli and US strikes on Iran as these actions threaten to destabilize the region. This is stated in a statement by the ministers in connection with the situation in the Middle East. This will hardly change anything, but it's a clear position of Russia, Belarus, and several Central Asian republics that are directly geographically linked with the Middle East and are obviously have interest in regional stability. Also, when it comes to Middle East, by the way, I'm going to give you this news that Trump officially lifted sanctions on Al-Julani's terrorist gangs that run Syria now. So ISIS, congratulations to all Americans, by the way. ISIS and Al-Qaeda is your official partners now. It's official. ISIS and Al-Qaeda is officially strategical allies and the partners of the US and the collective West. Absolutely not surprisingly, by the way, because it's a US Secret Services and British Secret Services, first of all, that created Al-Qaeda and then ISIS, right? And all the offshoots, by the way, of these terrorist organizations, right? And no matter how much they're going to whitewash now Al-Julani that, well, he is not really ISIS, not really Al-Qaeda, he's reformed, and he no longer wants to cut heads of children, and women and civilians. He no longer wants to cut heads of US militaries, by the way. Al-Julani himself was acknowledging that he has killed a numerous number of US military personnel, right? While being Al-Qaeda and ISIS member. And the Pentagon, by the way, CIA actually sacrificed their own citizens, right? From Pentagon, they are military personnel of US, because yet again, ISIS and Al-Qaeda were created by whom? By CIA, right? And they did not care if certain groups inside this organization would attack US military personnel, as they were doing, by the way, quite often to gain some popularity among masses, isn't it? Among radical elements in the Middle East. And they killed quite a lot US citizens, by the way, US militaries, to prove to radicals, all sorts of radicals in the region, that, well, they are not CIA assets. I mean, they are really independent or some group. It's just crazy. But yes, I mean, it's official. sanctions being lifted from terrorist-run Syria. At least theoretically speaking, this might make life for ordinary Syrians, by the way, ordinary people, little bit easier, maybe. I'm not sure about it. They are living under terrorist regimes, or how their life gonna get improved in any way, shape, or form, by the way. But if this will help ordinary Syrians, at least one person, okay. But this is disgrace, by the way, what US has become. It was never the country that should be example for anybody, never. But I mean, last 3 to 5, 7 decades. I mean, after Second World War, by the way, for sure, US has become a monster that should never exist, actually. Telegram, meanwhile, is reporting that, well, all these favors, by the way, for ISIS terrorists and Al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria are not free from US. They have demands, and not just from these terrorists, but also from Turkey, that is in indirect charge now of Syria through these terrorists. And for example, therefore, we are receiving this news that Syria to drop Golan Heights claims in exchange for recognition of new authorities by Israel. In ongoing peace talks, Syria insists on implementing specific security measures in the southern parts of the country and in the border zone where the borders of Jordan and Israel meet. The Times of Israel reports the country expects support from the US. The outlet says Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar earlier stated that he does not intend to discuss the status of the Golan Heights as a part of a peace agreement, but is interested in establishing official diplomatic relations with Syria and Lebanon. So, well, Syria's current regime, which is clearly recognized as a legit one by the West, this terrorist regime will drop the claim on Golan Heights, which is Syria's legit territory, by the way, that is occupied by Israel. And on top of that, Israel, since the collapse of Assad's government, occupied twice bigger territory on Syria, right? And they're not going to withdraw from there, but either. What this world has become, man. Meanwhile, well, in US, by the way, US itself is ongoing some turmoil, and we have another spark of confrontation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. We have this statement from Musk from his from his Twitter X page. If this insane spending bill passes, he's talking about this so-called big beautiful bill, the American party will be formed the next day. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty so that the people actually have a voice, according to Elon Musk. And well, it would be great if ordinary people of America would have a voice, but if such a possibility will exist, or even on theoretical level, anybody who will stand in the roots of that movement will be neutralized straight away by deep state. And if Elon Musk is not playing the part in this theater on behalf of the globalists or the deep state, if he really is true in his statements, right, then better he flee US, by the way, because you're gonna get killed, man. You're gonna end up in big trouble, either in jail or killed. If he truly is independent, I have some doubts about it, but anything is possible, right? Maybe he had some connections. Obviously, he had some connections with their certain groups, not just in the deep state, and they're not just globalists, but others, right? And that's how he managed to become world's richest person, right? And that's why he actually funded Trump's campaign for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for all the favors that he probably was given. But if he went rogue, things happened, isn't it, with people? People change. And if he went wrong and now wants to act truly independent and be focused on America, then he's in deep trouble, by the way. If deep state will consider him a threat, if deep state will think that, well, they might lose control, by the way, of a country if this person is not stopped right now, so that idea would not spread of Americans regaining control over their country and their future, then Musk gonna get either jailed or killed, by the way. They will destroy his reputation, first of all, through all sorts of attacks through so-called media and so on. And then they will either put him in jail or will kill. So better Musk run away if he is truly independent. What is your take, dear friends, on that? Well, Trump responded. Trump actually responded and kind of issued a threat towards Musk. We have this statement from Trump that he posted on his Truth Social. We are living in crazy times, isn't it? When leading figures, public figures, politicians are talking about some major stuff, and quite often about policies, by the way, through social network. I mean, what the hell is going on? Okay, Elon Musk, he's a public figure, right? He can use his Twitter X any way he wants, but Trump is a president, and why he is communicating with the world with through posts? This is not normal, right? Why he needs the Louis then as a press spokesman? I don't know. That's a whole different story. But let's go through statements that Trump made. Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against their EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have DOGE take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved, Trump said. And this is, by the way, I mean, not even indirect threat. This is direct threat, right? Towards Elon Musk, mentioning his country of origin, South Africa, on one hand, also claiming that it's all subsidies, otherwise Elon Musk would not achieve nothing. I mean, this is so over-exaggerated statement on part of Trump, isn't it? Elon Musk actually put US back to space, because NASA is total crap, by the way, nowadays, isn't it? They cannot even launch freaking missile, rocket. They are unable to launch astronauts, by the way. Literally, NASA is unable to launch astronauts, right? To transfer astronauts into International Space Station. And they were asking us, Russia, to help them with that. And for over a decade, I believe, US astronauts were flying to International Space Station thanks to Russian rockets, right? Then Elon Musk comes along and builds this SpaceX, revolutionary company, right? In many ways, revolutionary company, by the way. And he gives US opportunity to be independent in space launches first, and then he's beginning to build this Starlink satellite network that every other country, by the way, that is capable of trying to copy now, one way or another. It's not just Tesla. Who does give a damn about Tesla, by the way? Elon Musk built companies that are much more relevant for this world than Tesla ever be, right? Although, Tesla also somewhat play a big role in popularizing EVs, obviously, right? We should not downgrade the importance of that company too, but main achievements of Musk is rocketry and their space, right? And to downgrade, I mean, what Trump is doing, by the way, to be this ungrateful for achievements of Elon Musk and his team, is quite something, isn't it? I don't know. I'm telling you, dear friends, if Musk is truly independent, which I have doubts about, but if he really fed up with everything and just acting on behalf of himself and in terms of interests of US people as he sees it, then he's in a deep trouble. He should flee US right now until he can, because he's gonna lose everything and potentially even life. But to continue, dear friends, with the US, which is obviously a major bully in this world, Canada scraps tax on tech giants in bid to revive US trade talks. So, well, Canada is bowing down, by the way. Before Trump, Canada has shelved its plan to slap a digital service tax on tech companies in a bid to get trade talks with the US back on track, reversing course just as the measure was due to kick in. The 3% tax passed into law last year by the government of former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was set to take effect on Monday and yesterday, by the way, and would have been applied retroactively to 2022-2024 profits. It would have primarily target US companies like Amazon, Google, and Meta, costing them estimated $3 billion. And well, Ottawa is backing off, well, leadership of Canada should also say sorry for their bosses in Washington and kneel, by the way. What a shame, man. What a shame. But yet again, I mean, they are very brave to talk a lot, right? These Canadian elites. But when it comes to business, by the way, they are nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And also, this is not all, by the way. US is bullying everybody, or tries to bully everybody. In many cases they are successful. In some others they are not, and they are attacking Cuba once again, which is already under US embargo, illegal US embargo and sanctions for so many decades, isn't it? And we have this information that Cuba's top diplomat slams Trump's latest anti-Cuban move as a criminal conduct. The memorandum strengthening the U.S. policy towards Cuba, signed by U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday, reinforces the aggression and their economic blockade against their island country. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parilla stated the presidential memorandum against Cuba released today by the U.S. government reinforces the aggression and their economic blockade that punishes the entire Cuban people and is their main obstacle to our development, Cuba's top diplomat wrote on a post on X. This is a criminal conduct and violates the human rights of an entire nation, he added, and he is absolutely correct, by the way. He is absolutely correct. U.S. is acting absolutely completely illegally against people of Cuba for decades and decades and decades. And unfortunately, as long as this country exists, as long as U.S. exists, by the way, and I think it would not exist for long, by the way. I mean, based on the trajectory that U.S. is on right now. But as long as the U.S. exists, they will continue to be this horrible to its neighbors, including Cuba. And one should also keep in mind, dear friends, who is the state secretary of U.S. right now. Marco Rubio is a Cuban descent, isn't it? And if you take a look at the people that have roots in Cuba, in U.S. political class, in U.S. public, and are successful, by the way, you will trace back their ancestry to corrupt regime of Batista, right? These people did not came rich and influential in U.S. because they work hard. Let's be real here. These people of Cuban descent in U.S. that have especially influential in Republican Party because they use their links after revolutionaries in Cuba, take out Batista regime, Batista dictatorship. Many Batista allies flee, right, country, flee Cuba. And these allies of Batista, they were tremendously corrupt and they're despicable elements, right? Tremendously corrupt and despicable elements, by the way, that were terrifying people and terrorizing people on Cuba. You think why revolutionaries gain support of public? Because the regime of Batista was cruel, right? And these corrupt elements from regime, it was 59, right? When the revolution happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but it was 1959, I believe. Then these corrupt elements from Cuba flee to Miami, flee to US mainly. They use their links with the mafia, and the Italian mafia was ruling by the, ruling then in US, by the way. They were very powerful, right? US state institutions, including CIA, was even using mafia to arrange then attempt to overthrow government in Cuba. And you'll remember this Bay of Pigs story, right? When US Secret Services and militaries send their thousands of elements of Cuban descent to infiltrate Cuba and overthrow government. They failed big time. And US state institutions were using mafia at the time also to organize all that stuff. And so these corrupt elements from Cuba that left when Batista's regime failed, they used their influence, their money, their connections with the mafia, and the corrupt system inside the US itself, corrupt political system, to infiltrate Republican Party, right? And they did it successfully. They did it so successfully, by the way, that that US-Cuba relationships being destroyed completely, I guess, forever, right? As long as US exists now. And they have their asset in the position of head of State Department now, Marco Rubio. And what I say when this person was appointed on this position, that US would most likely increase pressure on Cuba, increase pressure on Venezuela, a number of other countries in Latin America to overthrow governments there, right? And to put their puppet regimes. And when it comes to Cuba specifically, you think these people like Marco Rubio and other elements, descendants of these corrupt, despicable individuals that flee Cuba when Batista's regime fell, you think they care about Cuban people? No, man, they hate Cuban people. What they want is to regain control over the Cuba, and they were owning island, by the way. They were owning almost everything right there. Ordinary people had no rights for anything. And these criminals, by the way, like Rubio and their others, and whatever forces are behind them, they want to take back Cuba for themselves, right? And to divide Cuba among them. You control this part, you control this part, you this industry, and that's what they want, man. They have no care about Cuban people. Otherwise, they would not support these absolutely illegal sanctions and blockade of Cuba that harms, first of all, whom? First of all, ordinary Cubans, by the way. Ordinary people, right? That's what is happening, by the way. Unbelievable, man. And I really hope BRICS member states, first of all, Russia and China will invest heavily in Cuba, by the way. I don't know what has to be done by government of Cuba to make it easier for businesses from BRICS member states to invest and to have guarantees that the investments going to be safe. But whatever needs to be done should be done by all sides. And Cuba is a partner, by the way, state of BRICS, and wants to join BRICS, and we should help people of Cuba, by the way. I mean, we have to, man. These people are enduring so many difficulties, by the way, due to criminal actions of the collective West and first of all, US. That it's just unbelievable, man. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that, well, when it comes to US bullying, by the way, even that is not all. They are demanding now from Japanese to no longer eat Japanese rice and to buy rice from US. It's freaking crazy, man. It's a psycho stuff, isn't it? So Trump says Japan has a rice shortage somehow. I mean, what Trump knows about rice whatsoever, or about Japan, by the way. Can Trump even find Japan on a map? I don't think so. I truly don't think so. If you give him a map, I'm 110% convinced he would not be able to find Japan on a map, by the way, right? And I'm convinced he would not be able to find even Washington city on a map. And he is talking about Japanese economy and what is in the shortage in Japan and what is not. And he wants Japan to buy US rice now. Freaking crazy, man. And maybe, by the way, maybe they will force Japan actually to harm their own farmers and buy, I don't know, man, 100,000 ton or 200,000 ton or 500,000 ton of rice from US so that Washington will leave them alone. They might actually do it, Let's see. It's a crazy, man. And well, when it comes to Indo-Pacifics, by the way, we have this report that India plans to arm its Su-30 MKI fighter jets of Russian origin, but I believe majority of the Su-30s that India has are built locally, domestically. It's a combined project. So India wants to arm these planes with the Russian R-37M hypersonic missiles, which have a Mach M6 speed, by the way, which is, 6 times faster than speed of sound, right? And also 300-kilometer range. According to DNA newspaper, the Indian Air Force may also integrate these missiles, R-37M missiles, into its MiG-29 fleet with local production and tech transfer offered by Moscow. So Russia will help to produce these missiles, these long-range hypersonic or air-to-air missiles in India itself, which is a good news, by the way. I mean, my attitude towards India whenever anything good is happening in terms of cooperation of two countries in economical field, military field, whatever field, by the way, I'm always happy about it. So good news. Hopefully Indian Air Force will significantly improve its battle capability with the integration of these hypersonic missiles into its fleet. And well, another big topic, I will say, for last several days is significant escalation in relationships between Russia and Azerbaijan, between Moscow and Baku. And well, there was another wave of this escalation that happening yesterday when Ministry of Internal Affairs of Azerbaijan announced the conduct of operation at the office of the international news agency Sputnik Azerbaijan. Sputnik is a Russian news agency, right? And Sputnik has its branches in many countries, right? It's partner companies, let's say. And there was a Sputnik Azerbaijan in that country, in that South Caucasian country, and Azerbaijan sent there its law enforcement officers. Russian embassy was unable to contact the journalists or the staff of their news agency. Then, by the way, 2 journalists were detained by Azerbaijani law enforcement agencies, and they claim that these 2 journalists are SBU officers. Sorry, not SBU, but FSB officers, Russia's Federal Security Service officers, journalists, by the way. And I saw videos when these people were detained, and no offense to them. I mean, they have to be freed immediately, obviously. But I mean, both people were overweight, by the way. I mean, they look anything but FSB officers, by the way. I mean, it's terrible. It's not funny whatsoever. But I guess intellect of Azerbaijani law enforcement officers and Azerbaijani leadership is in a different universe. And well, they are pushing this narrative that these people are FSB officers that were doing what exactly in Azerbaijan, in Sputnik Azerbaijan, by the way. Crazy. I mean, Baku is a long time acting hostile towards Russia. Let's be real, by the way. Azerbaijani leadership is hated by many Azerbaijanis, right? This dictatorship, basically, of Aliyev, this family clan, There was his father in office for so many years, since Soviet era, by the way. Then this son Aliyev is running the show there. And many Azerbaijanis, and I know people from Azerbaijan, by the way, many of them are sick and tired of this clan, right? And that's why many of them are fleeing the country, and including towards Russia, right? Actually, hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijani citizens are in Russia, living, working, doing business, and unfortunately, some people of Azerbaijani descent are engaged in crimes, and there is ethnic crime groups built, right, by different by representatives of different ethnicities, and they're including by people that have Azerbaijani roots, right? And well, this escalation, by the way, began not yesterday when Azerbaijan sent its law enforcement officers into Sputnik media, but some time ago, although Russia obviously reacted on these unlawful actions of the Azerbaijani side, and the ambassador of Azerbaijan was summoned there. He already arrived there into Russian Foreign Ministry, and the Russian side probably will tell them what they think about all of this, right? Later on today, probably we will have additional information, and of course, I will share this information in the next updates on my Telegram and Twitter X page also. But to take a look at the roots of this escalation, RIA Novosti, for example, reported that source of their media revealed the details of the organized crime group case in Yekaterinburg, by the way, one of the biggest Russian cities. And well, the several elements, by the way, number of people Azerbaijani descent were arrested. They were to link to their alleged link. Investigation is underway, so let's use this language. They were to their alleged link to ethnic crime group, assassinations, and all sorts of criminal activity, right? And on this regard, by the way, I give you this news: the defendants, in their contract killings in Yekaterinburg were involved in the mass alcohol poisoning case, also in the Urals in 2021, which killed 44 people, source in the security forces told the RIA Novosti. So these people, number of people of Azerbaijan descent that were arrested, that allegedly are members of the ethnic crime group, were involved in killings, intentional killings, by the way, and assassinations, and also due to their criminal activity, 44 people died while being poisoned by their alcohol that was distributed through this or with connection to this criminal group, right? And we have some more information. As I said, there are a number of people that investigation thinks were members of this criminal group were arrested. 2 of them died in custody, as I understand. And the bodies of these dead individuals were transferred to Azerbaijan, and they were received like heroes, by the way. I saw yesterday some videos on the internet, and I was thinking, is it true, really? I mean, this is really happening, that individuals that were accused of mass murder and criminal activity were received like they are heroes of sort. Confusing story, right? But well, to give you some more information, let's take a look at this news. So the bodies of Azerbaijanis Ziadin and Hussein Safarov were brought to the morgue of the clinical medical center under the Ministry of Health for examination in Baku. Local media reported. Currently, Baku is awaiting the results of the forensic medical examination. Earlier in June, security forces detained more than 50 natives of Azerbaijan in Yekaterinburg. Russian law enforcement officers, by the way, earlier in June detained more than 50 natives of Azerbaijan in Yekaterinburg, including the Safarov brothers, owners of the Kaspi Cafe. The Russian investigative committee reported that the defendants were involved in the murder of Yunis Pashayev, also a native of Azerbaijan, in 2001, and Ikram Gajiev, a citizen of that country, citizen of Azerbaijan, and owner of the vegetable warehouse in 2011, as well as in the attempted murder of businessman Fikhruz Shirinov in 2010. All these killed individuals and harassed people were also Azerbaijanis, by the way. So this criminal group was engaged in all sorts of criminal activity, including harassing Azerbaijani businessmen, right? And if some refused to pay them or to obey their orders, they were executed. Later on, RBK source in the law enforcement agencies reported that their detainees were also involved in mass alcohol poisoning in 2021, as I already mentioned, when 44 people died, by the way, as a result of this poisoning. The Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry summoned their charge defiers of the Russian embassy. Pyotr Volkov, representative to the Russian embassy, he was strongly protested over the raids by Russian security forces on apartments in Yekaterinburg where Azerbaijanis were living. The Kremlin stated that the work of law enforcement agencies should not be a reason for the marches, right? So what Azerbaijani leadership is expecting, that Azerbaijani criminals that have Azerbaijani roots can operate here in Russia freely and no one can do nothing about it, or what? What is the expectation in Baku, by the way? It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, these ethnic criminal gangs have to be neutralized all over, by the way. This is an issue not just in Russia, but this is an issue everywhere in this world, right? I mean, Western countries know about it quite well, too. And what Azerbaijani leadership expects, that Russia will just, do nothing, or what? The Russian Investigative Committee reported that one of their arrested defendants in a contractor killings in Yekaterinburg died, according to preliminary data, of a heart failure. The cause of death of a second is being established. Azerbaijan has decided to independently conduct another examination of the bodies of the citizens of the country who died in Yekaterinburg, said Saifuddin Hussein, deputy editor-in-chief of the 525 newspaper in Azerbaijan. And as I already said, the bodies of these deceased individuals that were accused of crimes already been transferred to Azerbaijan. And well, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that Baku decided to escalate with Moscow. I don't think this is a random development, for sure. And I think Moscow will have to make some decisions, by the way, because these ethnic crime groups are definitely a headache for law enforcement agencies, definitely issue for society that they are targeting, for members of the society that they are targeting. They have to be dealt for sure. And also these countries, by the way, I mean, former Soviet republics that constantly are demanding something from Russia, but are not really acting friendly. I mean, probably Moscow will have to change policies towards them, man. I understand we used to be part of one country. I was born in that country, USSR, right? Soviet Union, but that country no longer exists. And during the Soviet era, well, Russia was, by the way, I mean, financing all other republics, right? All other republics were developing on expense of Russia. It's just factual, right? And these republics get used to it, when Moscow will always give, and they still have this mentality until now. And this has to change, Moscow, I don't know, I'm not a politician, not a diplomat. I don't know what necessary steps are needed, but this cannot continue, man. This cannot continue with these former Soviet countries, Soviet republics are acting quite hostile time and again towards Russia, and Moscow is just kind of trying to downgrade this unacceptable behavior from so-called partners. Something has to be done, man. And Azerbaijan is becoming a big issue for regional security, I will say. Azerbaijan definitely was involved in attacks on Iran. Azerbaijan was assisting Israel, or Israel was using Azerbaijan any way they wanted. Azerbaijan leadership is also a proxy of the Turkey. One should keep that in mind, right? And nothing to be said about terrible relationships between Azerbaijan and Armenia, another South Caucasian republic, and also about difficult relationships between Azerbaijan and Georgia, by the way. Azerbaijan is taking historical Georgian lands. There is some border issue. And if I was in charge in Georgia, by the way, I would make sure that Azerbaijan will give back to Georgia historical Georgian land, where Georgians still live right now. Right? One should keep in mind that Azerbaijan never existed in history. It was also a creation of Bolsheviks, right? Check Check, by the way. If you find there 200 years ago any Azerbaijan kingdom or anything under such a name in the Southern Caucasus, you would not, because there was nothing like that. It's creation, like Bolsheviks, man. Anyways, I don't give I'm not a historian, anyways, obviously, but something has to be done. Azerbaijan is becoming extremely hostile and the extreme issue for security in the region. And I think no matter how diplomatic Moscow wants to be, at some point, some steps will be taken. And we are very close to that, right? This criminal regime in Azerbaijan of Aliyev is just has to be dealt with, man. My personal opinion, obviously, right? And I'm not as diplomat as some others. I am from Caucasus, by the way. I don't give a damn, right, about these freaking criminals, man. So, and I don't, you know. Anyways, man. That's the issue, by the way. Probably you have heard about some escalation between Russia and Azerbaijan, and that's what is happening. Criminal regime in Azerbaijan is protecting the criminals that are operating in Russia. To put it simply, that's how it is, man. That's all, right? And the Azerbaijani criminal elements should be neutralized all over the Russia immediately, man. No mercy, no nothing. Just take them out. That's it, man. And it's not just Azerbaijan, by the way. As I said, these former Soviet republics, time to time are barking too much, right? And while meaning nothing, literally, for the rest of the world, but they are acting if they are pinnacle of this world, right? Center of the universe. And well, it's not just Azerbaijan, but Armenia, for example, loves to have some attention under current Western-controlled regime. And for example, we have this report that Armenian Foreign Ministry calls on Russia not to interfere in the country's affairs. Can you believe that? So the Russian officials, parliamentarians, and their experts must treat Armenia's sovereignty with their great respect and never again allow themselves to interfere in our internal affairs. Ararata Mirzoyan said at the press conference with the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas. I mean, okay. So you see, by the way, these are bitches of globalists that are putting power in Armenia are barking now on Russia. While, Kaja Kallas, representative of the globalists, is sitting right there next or standing, This so-called outrage of Armenia is connected, with what, as I reported in previous updates, by the way, this criminal regime of Pashinyan that is absolutely controlled by the West, attacking Armenian church, right? And Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, for example, Sergei Lavrov, stated very diplomatically that whatever is happening in Armenia is obviously Armenia's internal business, but it is concerning that church is experiencing some, pressure. Lavrov was very diplomatic, by the way. But, these are puppets of the globalists that are in charge in Armenia now had to demonstrate that they are loyal to their Western masters. And they went after Lavrov. How dare you say anything about Armenia? Shut the fuck up, bitches, in Yerevan, motherfuckers, Sorry, dear friends, for my French, but who the hell are these creatures, man, really? To tell Russian foreign minister what to say, when and how. And allegedly, by the way, Russian foreign minister has some connection with Armenia and has every right, by the way, to say whatever he wants, right? And every Christian has every right to condemn these criminals in Armenian regime right now for attacking oldest church in this world, by the way. I remind you that when it comes to state level, Armenia was the first kingdom that adopted Christianity, right? It was 334 year, right? After Christ was born. 334, I believe, when Armenia became Christian, and 337 when Georgia became Christian. So any Christian has every right to condemn when Christianity is under attack. And that's what is happening in Armenia, by the way, right now, under this Western-controlled freaking regime of Pashinyan. So yet again, man, these former Soviet republics, some of them, not all of them, but some of them love to bring some attention to themselves, to act as if they are some center of universe, while they are freaking nobodies, man, right? On a scale of geopolitics, right? And should not underestimate their importance, after all. Why am I not a foreign minister of Russian Federation, man? I will tell them what to do and how and where their place is, man. To all of them, and without diplomatic language, man. I would not mess around. And by the way, some good news from Southern Caucasus region, from Georgia, from Georgia for maybe surprisingly for some, but we have some interesting news from Georgia. Georgian Prime Minister says that trust in EU has significantly dropped in the country. The level of trust of Georgian citizens in the EU has dropped from 80% to 50%, said the Prime Minister Irakli Kubahidze in his statement. According to Vzlyad newspaper's reporter, he explained this by the fact that the EU is financing revolutionary processes in Georgia in the interests of the deep state, in the interests of the, let's say, globalists, right? In the interests of the globalists, Western ruling class, neocons, and so on, that want to use Georgia as a sort of second front against Russia, and they are not even hiding this, right? And Georgian high-ranking officials stated many times openly that representatives of the collective West directly demanding from Georgian leadership to sacrifice their own country, their own people, and to get engaged militarily with Russia, to provoke war with Russia. Thanks God, the Georgian leadership under this ruling party, Georgian Dream, find the strength in itself to refuse, right? Otherwise, otherwise, Georgia would experience some very dramatic days, right? So Georgian Dream actually saved the country, one may argue. And Western so-called elites, through different means, by the way, through state institutions, through different funds, financing a lot of elements in Georgia, a lot of assets that they have there, including non-governmental organizations, so-called media, by the way, and even politicians. And they are desperately trying for how many years now to overthrow Georgian Dream government, right? They are unsuccessful until now, at least, and hopefully they will lose this battle with the Georgian people. But country, society in Georgia, government, and their country as a whole should be on high alert, by the way. They cannot relax even for a second, because they are facing most dangerous enemy that Georgia has ever faced, Western ruling class, by the way, which is bloodthirsty, blood-sucking creatures that are guilty of death of God knows how many millions of people worldwide, right? So Georgia has never ever faced such enemy in his history, and should be extremely cautious and careful. And I really hope Tbilisi and Moscow will find the ways to overcome obstacles. There is possibilities for that. I spoke about it many times before. It can be done, and hopefully will be done, so that Georgia will receive some more securities, because region is a very difficult one and can explode at any time, right? And I think Georgia had enough of tragedies and the problems since the collapse of Soviet Union, right? And people in Georgia deserve to just live in peace and just be happy, you know. So yes, some good news from Georgia, by the way, that people are waking up and realizing that, well, this so-called West is not their friend, actually. You know, the Western ruling class is definitely not their friend; it's their mortal enemy. That's it, and that's why this number has dropped this dramatically, from 80% trust into EU to 50% now, which is also too much, by the way. I mean, come on. 5-10%, when 5-10% of society is delusional, okay, you know, country can live with that, society can survive that, but I mean 50% is still too much, right? EU is not the friend of Georgia, never was, never will be, right? And Western ruling class is definitely not the friend. And I will end this update, dear friends. I guess relatively long update. Let me check how long is this video. It's already almost 2 hours. Wow. But a lot of news, isn't it? A lot of news, a lot to discuss, unpack, and I will end the news segment of it on this report that Russia successfully tests its 50-qubit computer. So Russia has successfully tested the 50-qubit quantum computer, the Lebedev Physical Institute told us. Successful completion of their test would pave the way for the production of serial samples of quantum computers and their commercial use. The research center added the 50-qubit computer was built using cold ion technology as a part of their quantum computing roadmap under their Aegis of Russia's state-run nuclear company Rosatom. Ion computers with fewer than 500 qubits are the most advanced type of quantum machine. During the test, the key characteristics of their computer were explored, including the reliability of 1 and their 2-qubit operations, as well as their coherence time, or their amount of time that qubit can maintain its quantum state before the coherence occurs. I mean, that's some quantum physics stuff. I have no idea about it, obviously, but quantum computing is a future, according to experts, right? This is our uncomparably powerful, more powerful computers than we use right now. Well, it is good news. It is good news that Russia is obviously engaged in this work to build, to achieve success in quantum computing, and hopefully, you know, we will be successful in that. And this quantum computing and whatever capabilities it can present will be successfully used for all necessary purposes, to defend Russia, to defend Russian society, to improve economy, and to do some good stuff. By the way, I mean, we have to be in the lead when it comes to all the modern technologies, right? Or at least compete with the leading countries in the field. And we have a great school. Obviously, we have great experts in every possible field, right? Physics, mathematics, and so on. And I have no doubts that Russian scientists are gonna achieve significant progress, by the way, and it will benefit whole world. Let's say that way. So yes, good success on part of Russian quantum physics, right? quantum computer was successfully tested, and that's about it for news segment, by the way. Sorry, dear friends, at some points I may get too emotional, but I'm a human being also, and when you are operating in this field of news and political commentary on daily basis, and when you are talking about subjects that are not about some other countries usually, but about your countries or your region, obviously are a little more emotionally invested, right? And sometimes it shows. Sometimes it shows. Anyways, let's take like 10-15 minutes for community chat. I will look for questions that I can answer, dear friends. Once again, thank you all for attention. As always, capital Q will help to notice faster the question. There was no super chat, I guess. Otherwise, Anya would tell me. So questions. I can see question. Svetlana Vladimirova is commenting, asking, what do mean, Levan, that Putin should put Russia's enemies in their place? What would you like Putin to do? Nuke them. Just nuke them, man. That's simple answer. I can go and on and on and on what Russia can do without extreme force, without nukes, let's say, right? It would take too long, but you know what? I have simple principles in my life. If this person is my enemy, I want my enemy to be neutralized. Period. I mean, that's how it is, man. Why should we pretend that we are someone else that we are not, right? We are apex predators, right? Humans. And we are not angels. And you know what? If my enemy kills my fellow citizens, I want those enemies to be killed too. It's simple, by the way. I mean, and if it means that we will all die, then okay, we will all die. But I want my enemies to be killed, man, exterminated. That's it. And I did not start it. We didn't start it, right? They did it. They are attacking us. They destroy my country. I was born in Soviet Union, right? So they destroy Soviet Union through their means. They then when Soviet Union collapsed, I become citizen of Georgia, part of former Soviet Union. They destroy Georgia too, by the way, right? And now, due to life, it happens that I move to Russia. I become Russian citizen, and they want to destroy Russia too. So you know what? I truly had enough. I truly had enough of this hostility of the Western ruling class towards my people, towards my country. And I see them as an existential threat to me personally, to my family. I'm not exaggerating nothing. That's how I see them, right? And I'm 100% convinced, I'm honest when I say that I see Western ruling class as an existential threat for humanity. They're going to kill us all, by the way, if we don't take care of them. Right? So, yet again, if you ask me what should the Russian president do, you know what? Issue one last warning. No more even a single bullet to this terrorist regime in Kiev. Otherwise, whichever country will send even a single bullet, we will just nuke it. We will just turn it into radioactive dust. Then just say it, man, and then do it. Then do it, That's it, man. I don't give a damn what the rest of the world will think about it. You are my enemy. I want you to be exterminated. That's it. Finish. Let's be real, man. If anybody pretends to be angel and if enemy hits me in this side, I will turn this one and all that kind of crap. I'm not, man. I'm not as good Christian, let's say, Azer, maybe some others, right? But you want to kill me, then I will try to kill you first, man. That's how it is. We are in a war. We are in a war, and we should recognize that and say it as it is, man. They want to kill us all, for God's sake, right? Am I direct enough? I am, right? They're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop until we will take care of them. And why on earth Russia has so many nukes, by the way? I mean, after all, why? They are attacking Russian nuclear triad. What else they have to do, by the way? So that we will react in a way that I think personally is appropriate, which is just nuke them, man. It will take for Russia just about an hour to understand. I mean, it will take for Russia just about an hour maximum, and neither UK, neither France will have nuclear weapons, or the armies for that matter, any nuclear capability whatsoever. Both these countries will be demilitarized completely, and you know what? I don't think US will get engaged with us with full-scale war. Because in that case, US will be obliterated too, right? They will kill us. Yes, no doubts about that. But we will take care of them too, right? So US will not survive war with us, nuclear exchange. No one would. No one will. So therefore, if I was Russian president, you know what? Very first day, France and UK send their long-range weapon systems, I would nuke them. Their nuclear capabilities, their military-industrial complex, everything that is related with military capabilities. I will just neutralize France and UK forever and for good, for sake of humanity. And US will stay quiet, because I'm quite sure US leadership don't want to see their country being turned into radioactive dust, radioactive wasteland, right? And that will send also a message to US, you know what, know your place and don't mess around. We don't want war with you, but you know what, just don't mess around and you will leave. That's how I will do the business, by the way, and that's why I'm not a president of Russia and never gonna be. I'm not born in Russia, by the way. You have to be born in the country, but I was born in Soviet Union, so I don't know. So I mean, that's what I think. I mean, some people may agree with me, some people may don't. Some people may pretend that they are angels, and how dare you say that you want your enemies to be neutralized and that kind of nonsense. But I'm real, man. If I don't like someone, I don't like someone. If I like someone, I like someone. If I feel negatively about certain topics, I will say it. It does not necessarily mean that I am correct and the other opinion is wrong. No, I'm just sharing my opinion. And who knows, man, who is wrong and who is right. Oh, also a question from Svetlana Levan. Do you regret the fall of the USSR? Yes and no. Yes and no. If Soviet Union would reform itself, right? There was a great opportunity. If Gorbachev never existed, by the way, if Gorbachev and Shevardnadze, these traitors, never end up in power, and if some clever people actually lead the country, Soviet Union, and modernize the economy step by step. I mean, if Chinese can do it, we could do it too, right? So if a country was modernized step by step without total destruction, without disintegration that killed hundreds of thousands of people, Soviet people, by the way, on territory of and continues, by the way. I mean, results of current Ukrainian crisis is also connected. I mean, this crisis is connected with the fail of Soviet Union, at least in some ways, right? So many people died. There was so much destruction, by the way. Then I mean, 90s, right? I was living in Georgia, by the way. The situation in Georgia was much worse in 90s than in Russia. But in Russia also situation was extremely bad, isn't it? And that also killed how many million, that stress and that difficulties that people were facing on daily basis due to consequences of collapse of Soviet Union. I mean, so much tragedy, right? And of course, I feel sorry that this all this happened, you know, and our people experienced all of this and went through this pain, right? So yes, I'm sorry that I feel sorry that unfortunately Soviet Union failed to be led by these traitors, Shevardnadze and Gorbachev and others, that destroy country, and as a result, literally millions of people died, man, as a result of direct or indirect consequences, and continues to die until now on the battlefield there in zone of special military operation. So yes, I mean, in that sense, yes, I would prefer Soviet Union to reform itself, right? To reopen economy step by step, right? Reopen economy, allow small and medium business to thrive. That will benefit society, that will benefit country, right? Reopen the borders. Why Soviet Union was so isolated, by the way, that travel even in Eastern Europe was something extraordinary. I mean, what the hell? For many people, right? This was wrong. So much was need to be done, but you know. But on the other hand, as I said, I mean, yes and no, isn't it? If instead of Gorbachev and Shevardnadze, some radicals from other side would end up in power and make living for people even more difficult, then of course in that case, no. But what happened, isn't it? What I'm sorry for is that country that had so much achievements, by the way, in so many areas, was destroyed, and millions of people died as a result of this, as a result of consequences, directly or indirectly. How anybody cannot feel sorry for this, but and I am saying so while not being a supporter of communists, by the way. I never was, right? But it has nothing to do with the country, right? Country should survive, but it did not, because of the traitors, man, in that very communist party. This Gorbachev and Yeltsin, you think, and others, Shevardnadze, they come from where? They were members of Communist Party, by the way. These traitors were from Communist Party that destroyed Soviet Union and Soviet people. Yet again, dear friends, sorry if I'm being a bit emotional today. I don't know. Maybe I did not have enough sleep or something. But and dear friends, if I miss your question, sorry about it. But if you want to make sure that your question being highlighted during the stream and I would not miss it, then there is a super chat on Rumble, and also you can send through PayPal or Boosty your question, on which I will react either during the stream or during the next stream, right? Whenever I see it. But I will react on it for sure. Blorp, thank you very much for your super chatter. Blorp is commenting, super chat, says hi, hello, and thank you for your super chat and donation. Truly grateful. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, is Turkish nationalism of Erdogan not a threat to Russia? Of course it is threat to Russia, by the way, of course. Turkey and this drive towards of Turkish regime towards restoring Ottoman Empire is definitely a threat for stability in the Middle East, in the Greater Middle East, let's say, and also for countries where Turkic-speaking people are living. And in Russia, by the way, in a few regions in the Northern Caucasus region, Turkic-speaking people are living. In Crimea, by the way, Tatars are Turkic-speaking people, right? And also there are Tatarstan Republic, Turkic-speaking people, right? And according to reports that I see in media, by the way, Turkey was quite active to indirectly promote separatist radical tendencies in all the regions of the Russian Federation where predominantly Turkic-speaking people are living, right? So Turkey is a threat for Russia, a historical threat, not just now, but historically. And Turkey is a threat for stability in Central Asia. And if you remember, I was saying that NATO, I mean, London, by the way, globalists will use Turkey and are using Turkey to infiltrate Central Asia, and they did it quite successfully, unfortunately. And then when they will decide to destabilize Central Asian republics, especially ones that are bordering China, so that uncontrolled areas will be created there along Chinese border, and then all these terrorists that were trained in Idlib province, thousands and thousands of them, will be transferred in Central Asia to be used as a tool against China, to target China with these terrorists from outside and from inside, because some of them will infiltrate China, obviously, and try to destabilize the situation on the northern western parts of China, when, for example, predominantly ethnic minorities are living. Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and some other minorities, right? And I remind you that thousands of ethnic Uyghurs of Chinese origin, Chinese citizenship, did undergo training in these terrorist camps in the Idlib province of Syria under control of British intelligence and US intelligence. Obviously, Turkish intelligence is always there, right? So it is a threat, by the way. It is a threat, and I see Turkey always as a historical threat for Southern Caucasus region, for Georgia, and also for Russia. I'm never going to see Turkey as a friend. Never. You know, I may not, if Turkey is not hostile, I may not be hostile. Okay, that's fair enough, but I'm never going to trust Turkey. As a state, by the way, I'm talking about, obviously. I'm always talking about states and elites. I'm never talking about, I mean, if I'm talking about people, then I will say so, right? I'm talking about state and their elites. I mean, Turkish state, either republic or their this Ottoman Empire in the past, it was a great danger for Georgia, and Russia fought, not just Georgia fought with Turkey, but Russia fought so many times, and in majority of cases very successfully. So it is a threat, for sure. But there is, balancing act has to be, found. Turkey may want to be, extremely hostile towards Russia right now. Probably Erdogan wants to be extremely hostile against Russia, but they just cannot afford that. Globalists from US or Europe, they can afford this, right? They have different background, different foundation, financial, economical. Turkey is in a different situation, and Erdogan is just forced to cooperate with Russia, let's say, not to be hostile. But that does not mean that Erdogan is can be trusted or regime there. No. Also, Nidish is asking, Luan, I think North-South corridor master directly to Caspian Sea from Iran. What do you think, Herb? Obviously, by the way, obviously, right now, Caspian Sea is a part of it, isn't it? Obviously, anyways. But also significant focus is on a land bridge too, which goes through Azerbaijan, for example, from western side. And I'm telling you, I as time goes by, I see regime in Azerbaijan as to be more and more threat for stability, for regional stability, because they're being used by Turkey whenever they want. They're being used by Israel whenever they want. This is in this very difficult region. Such a reality is extreme hazard, extreme danger, right? And take a look what Baku is doing in regards to Russia, by the way. I mean, right, these days, exactly these days. Is this a behavior of the friendly country or friendly regime, let's say? No. No. And I remind you, dear friends, that Azerbaijan leader did not came on 9th of May during the celebration of the victory in Great Patriotic War. He did not came to Moscow to pay tribute to all the heroes from Soviet Union, by the way, that fought and died so that we would live, right? And I didn't like that then, and I spoke about it, isn't it? That he didn't came, although he should. He promised actually, and that was also indicator. And there was in previous years also, by the way, there is constantly this back and forth between Moscow and Baku, and I just think Russian leadership is just too diplomatic, by the way, too polite. I mean, I don't know, man. They have steel nerves, really, you know. They just have steel nerves, man, because if I was in charge, by the way, I mean, I will, wow, you know. I applaud, by the way, this steel nerves and this calm attitude that Russian leadership has. This is not bad. This is something to be proud of. But same time, you know, maybe because I'm a southerner and I'm more emotional and more for immediate actions, maybe because of it, or I don't know. But I think probably more, you know, I would act differently, man. That's all I want to say. I wouldn't tolerate no hostility towards my people. And if I were in a position to neutralize everybody who threatens my people, I would do it. That's me, by the way. If anybody threatens my people, and if I can't neutralize that threat completely, I will do it, no matter what will it take. You know. Dear friends, let me remind you, if I may, that after this live stream will end, if you can, please leave some commentary and like the video. That might help to deal with the algorithm on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble. And then after stream, I will make, I don't know, 2-3 short videos from the stream, and will publish those short videos also. And if you come across those videos, you already know what I was talking about there. So if you like this stream, then please, if you have time, like those videos also, and leave some commentary, just to deal with the algorithm, especially on YouTube, by the way. Last week or two, algorithm has become extremely aggressive, isn't it, on YouTube? I don't know what is going on, but you know. And once again, dear friends, sorry if I miss your question. But yes, Nidish, on your question, I just went to other topics. Obviously, Caspian Sea should be main route in north-south trade route. By the way, I think additional ports have to be built, additional infrastructure has to be built in Russia, in Iran, on the shores of Caspian Sea, which is not really sea, but you know, and definitely this maritime route, let's say, this waterway should be primary goal for in this project, because land routes may be much easier, right, but are not as reliable in a longer run, I think. I don't know. I mean, experts should think about it and take care of it. And thank you very much, dear friends. Let's end these updates. It's 2 hours and almost 17 minutes now. Thank you very much, dear friends, for your attention, for your time, for your questions, comments. Truly appreciate it, for your support. Once again, my apologies for being a bit emotional. I myself don't like that. But yet maybe I did not get enough sleep, man. I don't know. And if I'm able to this evening, dear friends, or later, late at 11 or 12, I will start a live stream with all the additional news that will be reported, main news that will be reported during the day. I'm interested in this time frame 11-12. If it will be, how many people will join, if it will be convenient enough for society. And yesterday I was unable to do so, but today I will try. So if you are on internet at that point, please check my channel for that stream. And yes, this is it for now. Thank you all for your time, attention, support. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye for now.